plays super freaking well. It's kind of ridiculous how well it plays.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we're back here messing with lossless scaling. I've been meaning to do another video about this. I got lost doing other projects, but I'm back. And this is probably the most interesting way to use lossless scaling that I have found. And it's running on this hardware on my desk right here. I'll tell you what exactly we have graphics card wise. I want to talk about the CPU. This is i7-4750K, I believe, right? This thing came out in survey says. This came out in 2013, as you can see right here. And yeah, so this thing is really old. It is boosting, what exactly do we have? We got 4 cores, 8 threads, 3.9 gigahertz, 8 megabytes Intel Smart Cache, 84 watt TDP. Yeah, this thing is a weak boy CPU. This CPU is dated. And as for our graphics cards, you'll see they're both low profile graphics cards. Believe it or not, I spent less than $200 for both these cards if you don't include shipping and taxes. RX 6500, actually it's like the 6550M. They don't make a desktop version of this, really. This is a Dell version. It comes with Dell pre-builds, and basically it's a 6500 mobile version, and then right here we have the RX 6400. The reason why I'm doing it with this CPU in particular is this slot right here is X4 lanes. There's 4 lanes here. It is Gen 3. Both these slots are Gen 3. So I don't know exactly how bad that's gonna work. We're just gonna find out together. So this stuff is really old hardware minus the GPU. We do have 16 gigabytes of DDR3. Both running at 1600 megahertz. We technically can overclock this CPU, but since we're using a stock Intel cooler, I don't really want to risk that whatsoever, because we might set it on fire, and this motherboard is kind of cheapy. I don't even know if we can overclock in this motherboard. But all in all, if you were to build something like this, you know, you can get these processors motherboard combos less than $100 with RAM, and then you just need a cheap power supply, and you need these 2 cards. So this is like reasonably, you can get this under $350. This is the RX 6400 right here. Boosts to 2000 megahertz. It does have 668 shader cores. And if we switch off to the 6500, and you notice the 6500 is on the main slot. That's because this is actually more powerful than the RX 6400. It has 1000 shader cores, so it's quite a bit more shader cores. And its core clock is a little bit lower. They're both 4 gig cards, but that's not going to really matter. If you want a system like this to work, first of all, you need to make sure that your motherboard can handle an extra graphics card for what we need, and it needs to have a X16 or any type of PCI lane that has 4X on there. But that could also mean M.2. Obviously, this 2013 actually this motherboard came out in 2011, I think, or the socket came out in 2011. This does not have M.2, but it does have 2 PCI X16 slots, and then one of them is a 4X lane. But even if you had like a 1X slot, I don't think this motherboard has one, you could technically use a riser and use the riser to plug in a graphics card, but it just needs 4 lanes. All right. What we did on this original PC where we modded, first did our dual GPU system. What we did was we had a M.2 to PCI X16, which we used that hook up a second graphics card, and we only could do that because that first M.2 port, the one in the front, the main one, is 4 lanes. That means we can transfer enough data to do what we're about to do, which is lossless scaling on both cards. One key thing that you always need to do when you do this is you need to make sure both your adapters are on. So what I did to start this one off, I actually booted each graphics card one at a time, meaning I plugged it in, installed the drivers for this RX 6400, installed it, shut it down, did the same thing for the 6500, shut it down, and then put them both together, and now they're both showing up pretty nicely in Device Manager. That's how I did it. If you run into hiccups, you might have to do some DDDU wipe. Maybe you have to do some BIOS changing. I don't know. It just worked for me and like that. And it should, for the most part, work for you like that. And if you do run into some issues, just leave me a comment below. Maybe me or somebody else can help you out with that. You want to also make sure you go to display settings and you go to graphics. And then you always make sure that your graphics card is set to the right one for the right task. So advanced graphics settings, so default high performance RX 6500, that's our main graphics card. And then lossless scaling is set to RX 6400, but you can also set this in the lossless scaling settings. That's it. You can get this thing running no problem as long as you have an X4 lane. And obviously another thing is power. Make sure you have enough power to your graphics cards. Make sure, let's say, you know, both graphics cards are pulling 100 watts each. You got a 100 watt CPU. So you're going to need at minimum, I would say 450, 500, because just because the power supply says 450 or 300 or 400, 500 doesn't mean you're exactly pulling that. Each rail has a certain amperage, and we're pulling from a 12 volt rail. And if we're pulling too much from that one rail, then you could cause a fire in your power supply. So always get a little bit more than you need, because more than likely it won't perform. That's an 850 watt power supply, so it's not a problem. Both these cards are very low power consumption. That was, the 100 was just an example. All right, so I think we're pulling 200 watts maybe in total, maybe 220. So 850 is super overkill for something like this. This 4-core CPU is really like, man, it's trying hard. Let's just say that. Surprisingly, we're getting 31 frames right now on the ship. Fun fact, the last BIOS for this motherboard was from 2019. Medium settings, you can see that I believe whichever is using the most. So GPU 1 is definitely more than likely our, oh my god, it's a mosquito. I've been bit so many times. Goddamn mosquitoes. All right, if you see me paranoid, these friggin' mosquitoes have been getting me lately. So I'm all covered up right now with the AC on. All right, so we're at 720p. Obviously our screen, let's stretch this real quick so you can see what it looks like full screen at 720p. It doesn't look that greatest, dude. We're at 75% utilization on the CPU. There's a lot of tearing going on right now. There's medium presets. I don't think we're using any upscaling. Let's go ahead and let's turn on some upscaling real fast. Let's go quality. Oh, that looks better with upscaling on. There was a lot of tearing. I mean, a lot of like hazing. There is some serious tearing, and that might be my capture card. I've noticed that using a capture card in the past have caused tearing. It didn't really make anything better. Our GPU utilization is only at 50%. So we're pulling 28 watts and we're at 50%. So I would assume probably move up our display to 16 by 900. It just goes to show you that this game is actually having a hard time. Man, the stutters are really bad. It's just really bad, and it's only going to get worse when we drop down. Stutters are pretty dang bad. Okay, and it might be because the way we're set up. So what we have going on right now is this is rasterizing the image, but then the display is coming out at RX 6400, and it's coming out at RX 6400 because what we're about to do is turn on lossless scaling. I'm gonna go back to window mode, display. We are 900p, everything. We have lossless scaling on. Let me just double check we're on the 6400. Okay, we're on a 6400. We are gonna go FSR, and we are 2x multiplier. We're gonna hit scale. Okay, so what we're doing now is our 36 frames is now 70 frames. So we're getting 70 FPS. I can't tell if frame gen is on. There is a bit of ghosting, so yeah, it definitely is on. You can see it in his head. The bottom GPU, which is GPU 2, is the RX 6400, and it's only at 40% utilization. It's upscaling to 1440p too. So let's go ahead, and before we drop down into the map, since you are using a dual GPU setup, we might be able to get away with like a 3x. And then I'm just turning the flow. Oh, the flow scale was all the way down. No wonder it looked like trash. Let's go 75, and then scale. So we're going 3x multiplier on the RX 6400, and we're at 50% utilization on the RX 6400, and we're getting 90 FPS. It doesn't feel, actually, for whatever, and it's because I changed the flow scale. This is not terrible. I think we can get away with 1080p. That's what one thing I'm gonna do real quick. 1080p will put a little bit more tax in our system, but it should give us a better picture quality overall. All right, the stutters are terrible. They're like amazingly bad, and I think that's all CPU driven. I don't think that is our graphics cards whatsoever. But you got to remember, we're running 2 4 gig cards right now. It doesn't look like, oh my god, I didn't realize our memory on our that's why. Look how high our memory usage is on here. Our memory usage is through the roof. No wonder it's stuttering like crazy. I didn't realize it. All right, so we have to go down in settings for sure. Okay, it looks terrible. We are at 720p. Oh, you can really start seeing the artifacting from the frame generation. We're upscaling the 1440p though. You guys got to understand that. We're upscaling the 1440p. Obviously, this is not going to look amazing. Oh my god, reinforce. What? Oh, my D-pad. It's honestly not that bad. Our GPU utilization is just not there. It's like we're only pulling 30 watts on there. I don't know how many watts we're doing on the second GPU. So very low power. And it's mainly because, we don't have RAM. Our biggest issue is RAM right now. So lossless scaling is working flawlessly, by the way. It is working flawlessly. It feels a little bit latency wise. I do feel it, but it's not that bad considering. It's just not that bad. Like, honestly, what's holding back this actual system is the CPU. This CPU is actually the bottleneck in this system. That and the VRAM. The issue with the VRAM right now is a problem. So this doesn't feel bad to me. Okay, see, now this is unplayable. I'm lightweight getting kind of nauseous doing this. We need to turn this down. I can't do 3x frame generation. It's too nauseating. So we're at 2x now. It's blurry as hell. Frame generation feels better now. This is kind of like how the Steam Deck plays this game right now. I shit you not. The Steam Deck actually plays this game better. And it's all because of this freaking CPU. Oh. Wow, we're pushing 80 degrees right now on this card. Ooh. Yeah, you can really feel it there. It's really pushing the CPU to its limits. Yeah, this is unplayable, guys. I don't even understand why I'm putting myself through this. It's more or less I don't want to abandon my guys. But this is really bad. Like, it's really hard to aim. Yeah, just like looking around in general is just bad for business. Let's go ahead and let's try one more game before we just stop. We'll try to find a game. What game do I have that is not as CPU dominant? I'm guessing Horizon Zero Dawn. Minimum system requirements is i5 2500K. So i7 4770K. So we are recommended right now. We have 60 gigabytes RAM. We don't have a 4 gig card. We have 4 gig, not 6 gig. At least our CPU should be able to run this. All right, we're in this bitch. Okay, this looks terrible. But we are getting 60 frames. What settings are we on? Display 720p. Okay, no wonder. I think we have to stay at 720p. We only have 4 gigs of VRAM. One good thing about Steam Deck, you can up the VRAM on there. We're stuck at 4 gigs. It's just a VRAM issue. If we threw in our 6600 XT in this system, it would run so much better because with that, I think that thing has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. All right, so we are technically getting better in the Steam Deck, but our VRAM limitation is really holding us back in fidelity. All right, we're at 50 minutes. Holy she's Louise. Let's turn on lossless scaling and let's do no frame generation. Let's just do upscaling and see how it looks from there. If our CPU just was not a bottleneck, this would be so much better. But again, a Steam Deck can run this game. That's how bad this CPU is. Look, we're still at 88% utilization right now. It's that bad. All right, so now let's try some frame generation. This feels good. Looks good, feels good. Let's do some frame generation. We do 2 scale. Let's do 80% flow scale. Oh yeah, that feels smooth. There's no input lag, like noticeable. There is input lag. It's the latency is definitely higher, but this feels freaking good. Like this feels smooth. Yeah, it's 100% playable. Let's see the crosshairs. See the crosshair, we're not having an issue of crosshair. We are using 80% utilization on our second GPU right now. We're definitely pushing it. The one thing I do know, the RX 6400 cards, they can handle 1440p. They can't do 4K. Try to turn it up a little bit. Let's do 3x multiplier and see how that feels. This is a 240 hertz monitor. Oof. Just saw some artifacting there. Not a good sign. Definitely can feel the input latency now. There's definitely 100% input lag. See how late that is? Definitely can see the input lag now. Oof. Going left and right is terrible. We're just gonna do 4x just for the hell of it. 4x, oh, now you can see the artifacting. It's bad. Definitely do not want to do 4x or 3x. But considering, you know, we couldn't really do this without the second GPU technically, which gives me an idea. All right, so we're gonna unscale it. It played pretty good with 2x. It was very playable. We're gonna go ahead and switch our GPU. We're gonna use the 6500 as well. It might be kind of an issue because we are using it off another graphics display port, meaning it's not plugged in directly to 6500. So this might be a problem. So we're just gonna hit scale and see how well this runs. We are 100% utilization. It's pretty, oh my god, it's bad. It's bad. It's unusable. This is unusable using FSR on the main graphic. And I think this might be probably because of the way it's plugged in, but I'm just not even gonna mess around with it. You shouldn't use FSR on some on a 4 gig card like this. So Warhammer 40K is playing magnificently. We're getting 30 FPS. We are still having an issue with the VRAM. It's still a huge problem, but this game is less heavy on the CPU, very much like Horizon Forbidden Dawn. Honestly, this is my second match, and I'm actually just enjoying playing this game. We do have frame generation X2 scaled up to 1440p. I don't know if I can get away with 3x. I'm gonna just give it a shot and see if I can get away with it. Or I'm just gonna do adaptive. I'm gonna go for adaptive 65 and see how that does. If we can hold that, that would be nice. Just fucking, it plays so good. So we have adaptive at 65. I am not noticing any frame generation too much, maybe a little bit. I can definitely see it in the crosshairs, but the latency is not bad. Like, it's not unplayable, and I could play through the whole game with this experience. Dual graphics card situation is
really shows it's a really good setup. Like obviously it's better on my main rig, obviously, but it's like it's not bad. Like coming from a guy who plays on a 5080 regularly and prior to that 3090, like this is not a bad experience. Like I can live with this. See, when I'm like when you pan from forwards to back like that, you can really feel the frame generation. If you have lower end hardware and you're having an issue, like if you're running something this old, obviously I wouldn't run anything this old. You need to upgrade. The CPU bottleneck is so bad. It's just so bad on later games. It's just terrible. So I wouldn't suggest ever gaming on something like this unless you had like no choice. You know, if we could pair this with a better CPU, like, whew, I guarantee you're gonna have a way better experience. I played throughout that whole match. Yes, it's a little nauseating when you're panning from front, doing a complete 180. It is a little bit, jarring, but overall, it's a pretty dang good experience. Everything considered, it's really good experience. Way better than on a Steam Deck, that's for dang sure. And to be honest, like putting all this stuff together, it's cheaper than OLED. You can get better CPU. I really kind of want to start seeing if I can build a PC like the cheapest possible using lossless scaling. What can we make? Obviously I would go for a G variant graphics card, like an 8500G, or man, it's just they're so expensive. It's cheaper to buy older end like a 5600 with a 4X slot and get 2 graphics cards. It's almost cheaper to do that than it is to get a G variant CPU. Well, there you go. That is a dual GPU setup, and boy, does it work well. I am generally happy with this setup and how it works. Man, these little boys are doing God's work. This thing is hot. 81 degrees. This thing runs hot. Look how this is actually more powerful than this, and look how much bigger the CPU cooler is on the RX 6400. It really shows you that they really didn't care when they made this thing. But other than that, guys, this is something super viable. You just need a PCI X16 4X slot, and you can turn really low-end hardware into something gameable. Freaking Warhammer 40K, 1440p. What a good experience. Definitely worth your time. Definitely worth your money. You can pick up these low-end. I think you can do a 1050 Ti, something that doesn't need an extra power. You're good. You don't need an extra PCI 8-pin for any of these cards. You can pick up a RX 6400, relatively cheap. Buy it used. Don't buy it new. Better off used. Everything on this table is used. I buy used parts all the time, and it's been rare that I've had issues, but I'm also buying them from people that seem reputable. I look at them, they don't look too beat up or beat up at all. If I buy it online, they have good reviews, they have good reputation. Just don't buy anything from anyone just because it's cheap. You want to kind of vet them out a little bit. I think that's one thing people need to learn and need to understand. You got to vet out who you're buying from. Overall, really happy with the experience. Highly recommend you guys doing something like this. If you have older end hardware and you just want to give it a little bit more life, there's nothing better than plugging in a 4 GB card to your system. As long as you're not trying to do anything more than 1440p, you can upscale it and you can run frame generation at least up to X2 without any really huge frame generation fallbacks. Input latency and big warping marshmallow affecting, and the ghosting is out of this world when we do anything over 2x. I think if you had a higher end graphics card, maybe you'd be able to get away with a little bit more. That I do not know. All I do know is that even at 2x or 3x, our secondary graphics card isn't even at 56, no more than 60% utilization. So there's still more power in the tank. I think the main issue is the original base frame rate. General rule of thumb, you want to have at least 60 FPS before you do any type of frame generation. Obviously, not a lot of hardware can do that,
but the sweet spot is 60 FPS for frame generation. So if you're taking 30 FPS or 45 FPS and you're doing more than 2x, you really tend to see that frame generation artifacting and all that ghosting, that marshmallow looking effect. And so keep that in mind. But other than that, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments below. My name is Nas, aka DIY Poppy. I'll catch you guys on the next one.